Welcome, guys, to Spine Screens and Streams. I am so excited because this is the first ever video on the channel. I've been wanting to start this channel for a long time, but I kept running into one problem, and it's that I have way too many interests to start a channel, and I couldn't decide if I wanted to make videos about books or TV or movies or even music. So eventually I realized I don't even have to choose. I'm just going to do it all because why not? It's more fun that way. So here's what to expect. Every Monday is going to be a book party Monday where I'll review whatever I've been reading that week. Whether I absolutely loved it or completely hated it, you'll get my honest thoughts regardless. And if the book deserves a rant, trust me, you'll be getting one. Wednesdays are for TV and movies, and I'll be talking about everything I've been watching lately, whether it's something everyone should see or something that's so bad I have to talk about it. And Fridays are going to be freestyle Fridays where anything goes, whether it's new releases on movies, books, adaptations, entertainment news, album reactions, basically whatever I'm currently obsessing over, that is going to be something that we're going to be talking about. I'm really excited to finally be doing this, and I hope that you'll stick around. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know what you're reading in the comments because I've always looking for new recommendations, whatever you guys are into. I want to be into too. Now, let's get into today's review. So, today we're going to be talking about Ready or Not by Cara Bastone. I don't know if you read it or not, but I actually went into this book completely blind. I didn't read the synopsis, I didn't look at reviews, and I honestly think sometimes it's better to get into a book that way. I just saw it, looked at the picture, and got it instantly. So, for one thing to know before you do the same, it wasn't available on Kindle Unlimited for me, so I ended up purchasing it. If you have Libby or your local library or you use anything else, definitely check there first because you might be able to borrow it instead. With that being said, the story follows Eve, a woman living in Brooklyn whose life gets turned upside down after an unexpected pregnancy. The romance centers around one of my all-time favorite tropes, best friend brother, brother's best friend. Now, the surprise pregnancy trope, that one and me don't really get along too well. I know a lot of people love that trope. And if you're one of those readers, that's totally fine. But I personally, it's never been one of those things that are my favorites. Even in books that I enjoy, surprise pregnancy usually isn't the storyline I'm most excited about. It's one that I'm very hesitant about. So that's how I kind of went into this book. Now, before I get into my full thoughts, this is just a spoiler warning. From this point on, I'm talking about the entire book. So if you haven't read it and don't want to be spoiled, now's the time to click away. Overall, I gave the book 3.5 stars. That doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it because I actually did. There were moments that made me laugh out loud, and I genuinely loved both main characters. My biggest issue wasn't the characters, it was the pacing. Normally, I can finish a romance in about 2 or 3 days, but this one took me almost a week and a half to finish. And I don't think it was because the story was boring at all. I think it was because there were so many moments where the book slowed down to focus on details that didn't really move the story forward. There are a lot of sections covering the pregnancy appointments, birthing class, labor, and everyday routines. While those scenes make sense for the story, they often felt so much longer than they needed to be. What I kept wanting was more time with Eve and Shep because every single time those two shared a scene, I was completely invested. Their conversations were funny, they had great chemistry, and they bounced off of each other so naturally that I couldn't wait for them to end up together. It was actually getting very annoying for me how long it took them to get together. Ironically, the strongest part of the book is also what I wish had there been more of, the romance. Instead, we spend a lot of time inside Eve's head. She's constantly questioning herself, wondering if she's imagining things, convincing herself that her feelings are just pregnancy hormones. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here yelling at the book because it's so obvious that Shep has been in love with her since forever. Seriously, it could not have been more obvious that that man was down bad. And somehow she never picks up on it. So here's the basic setup. Our main character Eve lives in Brooklyn and is incredibly close with her best friend Willa and Willa's older brother Shep. The three of them grew up together, they're from the same city, and they have basically become each other's family over the years. Shep had just gotten out of a long-term relationship, and from the moment he is single, I was sitting here thinking, oh, so this is going to be the guy. This man has been in love with Eve forever. It was so obvious for me. The only person who didn't seem to know that he was in love with her was Eve, and I guess Willa, because she seemed really out of the loop on that. One thing I really appreciated was how naturally their friendship was written and never felt forced. They already had years of history together, so their conversations felt comfortable and believable. Unfortunately, I also think that's where the book missed a huge opportunity because every time Eve and Shep interacted, I wanted more. Literally, every single time they interacted, they had me smiling, they made me laugh, and they had this easy chemistry. And them feeling like they already belonged together. Like It was something that should have been more focused on, but the book spends time focusing on something else instead. And that's really where my criticism comes in. It isn't a bad romance, it's actually a really sweet romance. I just wish more of the page count had been dedicated to building their relationship instead of focusing on every detail of the pregnancy and what's going on with the baby daddy, who is not Shep, by the way. Speaking of said pregnancy, the very first chapter opens with Eve finding out she's pregnant. And the father is Ethan, a bartender she hooked up with after a one night out. When I realized the book was opening with an unexpected pregnancy, I had a moment where I thought, oh, great, here we go. Because, of course, I hate unexpected pregnancy. Even though the pregnancy trope still isn't a thing for me, the characters themselves were entertaining enough that I wanted to see what happened next. I really liked that Eve was genuinely making me laugh. She's awkward. She overthinks everything. She says things without thinking. She's super chaotic, and I found that really endearing. There were multiple moments where I was reading at midnight, past midnight, and actually laughed out loud. And like my husband was asleep next to me, and I definitely woke him up at least once or twice. So if a book can make me do that, I have to give it credit where it's due. Now, once Eve finds out she's pregnant, she tells Willa first. And I actually thought Willa's reaction was one of the more realistic moments in the book, because she's been trying to get pregnant herself for a very long time. So hearing this news was incredibly emotional for her, because she isn't angry at Eve. She's angry at herself and at her body, and she's hurt by her own situation because she's been trying to have a baby for so long. And I thought that was a really human response. Thankfully for Eve, though, Shep shows up almost immediately like the king that he is. And this man is the biggest green flag I've read in a long time. I swear, you guys, like seriously. From the second he finds out that Eve is pregnant, his only concern is making sure that she is okay. He's supportive and he's kind, and he just never judged her for having this surprise pregnancy. He's just there for her. And that's something that I really took into a heart, and I started to root for him immediately, because not because he's the love interest, but because he's genuinely a good guy. And the story shifts to Eve telling about Ethan about the pregnancy, and his reaction isn't the best, but it's not the worst. It's very understandable. Like, he's in shock, and he has a girlfriend. Her name is Eleni, and his entire life just changed in about 30 seconds. Eventually, he does try to step up, and I appreciate that the author didn't make him into like a complete villain who like abandons Eve and his baby. He's flawed. He made mistakes, and he wasn't the best support system, but you can tell he wants to do the right thing, even if he doesn't always know how. Now, here's where the romance really starts winning me over. As the pregnancy progresses, Shep just keeps showing up for Eve. He's checking in on her. He's bringing her groceries. He's helping her around the apartment. He's showing up at her job to make her feel better. He's constantly finding little things to make her life easier, and he just wants to be in her presence. And here's the thing, none of it feels like he's trying to impress her. He's just doing it because that's who he is. Meanwhile, Eve spends the entire book wondering if she's imagining his feelings. She's constantly asking herself, does Shep actually like me? Or am I reading too much into this? Or is this just my pregnancy hormones convincing me that I am in love with Shep? And I'm just sitting here reading like, girl, this man is in love with you. It couldn't be more obvious. One of my favorite parts of the book, though, is even though Shep never outright says how he feels, his actions say everything. He's always there. Always. And he's always paying attention to her, and he's always putting Eve first. And there's like these little moments ending up like there's so much more meaning behind it besides this big dramatic love confession. Now, Ethan is also trying to be involved, and I actually appreciate that the author didn't like throw him aside and be like, oh, hey, my girlfriend's here, I'm not going to be in the baby's life. He wants to be in the baby's life. Every time, though, he tries to step up, his girlfriend is like, no, I'm struggling with this. I'm having a hard time with this. I don't want you involved. And imagine finding out that your boyfriend had a one-night stand during a break and now there's a baby involved. Yeah, I understand her struggle. That's a lot for anybody to process. So while I wasn't necessarily rooting for Ethan, I also didn't hate him. He just made me mad a couple times. I mostly just felt bad for everybody involved. There was one scene though that absolutely cracked me up. It's when Ethan comes over Eve's apartment and she offers him some homemade raspberry tea because he's bringing her some painting that his mom made for the baby, and he tells her that he doesn't even like raspberry lemonade, even though he took it. Like he took it and then tells her after that he doesn't like it. But then Shep shows up because he has a movie date with Willa and Eve, and he gets excited because he loves the raspberry lemonade that she makes, grabs a huge glass of it, and then starts talking about if anyone else wanted any. And suddenly Ethan starts chugging his glass of lemonade that he did not like. And you, sir, who are you trying to fool? You just told her you didn't like it, but now that Shep likes it, you want to pretend like you like it? That was just one of those tiny moments that wasn't supposed to be dramatic, but it told you everything you need to know. He was clearly jealous for whatever reason, I don't know, because he never showed any romantic interest in Eve. He could just see the connection between Eve and Shep, whether he wanted to admit it or not. And honestly, I was kind of laughing throughout the whole scene. Then we get what might be my favorite part of the entire book. So Eve and Shep are watching a Thor movie together. I'm not sure which one it is. I just know it's the one where Chris Hemsworth gets his haircut. And at one point, Eve casually mentions there's something really attractive about a man with a fresh haircut. Nothing serious, just a random comment. And mind you, Shep has long hair. So that day they go to the movie, Shep takes off his beanie and he's got a haircut, a fresh haircut. Now tell me that isn't adorable. Tell me that wasn't something that all men should do. This girl told him he loves haircut. She loves fresh haircuts, and that's what he did. And it wasn't for himself. It wasn't a coincidence. He got a haircut because Eve said that she liked the way that looked. And somehow, she still doesn't realize this man is completely in love with her. At this point, I was practically begging for her to connect the dots. There are so many little moments like that throughout the story where like he does something cute, and none of them are huge. They're like little tiny moments, and none of them are over the top like huge. Like, oh, he gets super jealous. He actually is the least jealous person ever. But together they paint this really sweet picture of someone who's been quietly loving the same person for years. And that's honestly why I kept reading. I wasn't reading for the pregnancy storyline. I was reading because I wanted these two to finally figure it out. I wanted Shep to have this happy ending. And every time they shared a scene, I found myself kicking my feet and smiling. As much as I loved Eve and Shep together, this is also where my biggest frustration with the book happens, is because there are so many moments where I spent more time watching their relationship grow. Like I wanted to see more. I wanted to be inside his head instead of inside Eve's head. And she's constantly questioning herself and making it like her feelings are only there because she's pregnant. And while I understand why she'd be confused, it started to get super repetitive for me. I just wanted the story to move forward. I didn't want to keep talking about the same thing. I wanted more conversations between them, maybe more flirting, more acting, more anything together. I mean, the baby's first kick was for Shep. And that was like amazing. And I would have loved to hear how Shep felt in that moment. Instead, we just get pages and pages and pages of Eve overthinking. And that's what I really wish had been. Like, I really wish this was dual POV because I need to be in Chef's head. I want his perspective. I would have eaten it up, knowing that what he was thinking every time he showed up for her, seeing how long he'd been in love with her, watching him try to hide his feelings. Those are things that I want to see. I want to hear. I want this man to yearn. I honestly think that would have taken this book from a 3-star to a 4.5-star, maybe even 5-star read for me, because the romance itself is adorable and I just wanted more of it. Another thing I noticed was that some details were incredibly fleshed out, while other things barely got explained at all. So we spent a lot of time following Eve through pregnancy, appointments, birthing class, and everyday routine. And then there are details that get mentioned once and never expanded on. Shep's job is a perfect example. We know he works with computers. We know he codes. We know he does something. He works from home. But what does he do? What is his job? The book almost teases the answer and then like immediately moves on from it. Like Eve doesn't know what he does, and he like makes a comment about it. There were a few moments like that where I felt like the author was focusing on the wrong details. It's not that those pregnancy scenes were bad. They just went on for a very long time. And I would have much rather had traded some of those pages for another date. Maybe like an actual date between Eve and Shep. That would have been nice, or like a late night convo, or literally anything that spends more time with them together, because every time they were on the page together, it was like pure magic. It was like these people belong together. Seriously. And their chemistry carried the book. And I just wanted more of it. So, speaking of chemistry, there's one scene that completely sold me on Shep as her love interest. And it's when they were watching TV together one night and nothing dramatic happened. They're just existing. And Eve falls asleep. And Shep spends the night with his hand resting on her pregnant belly, not because it's his baby, not because he has to, but because he was so excited about the baby kick that he had to be there. He had to be in that moment with them, and they fell asleep together. And that melted my heart, is because it's not his baby and it could be hurting him. But he doesn't let you know that. He doesn't let Eve know that. He just allows it to be, and he wants to be in this baby's life. And it's just super sweet. And Eve, oh, Eve spends like a lot of time, and they even say in the book that Eve is more thinking about herself instead of other people's feelings. And the author keeps giving us these emotional moments that pinpoint it, like with her friend. She's so mad at her friend for not being there for her, while also trying to say like she understands why her friend is being there, but then she doesn't know why she's mad at her. So poor Ethan is trying to figure out why he fits into this as well. And he really loves his girlfriend, but he doesn't want to not be in his baby's life. And they keep like hinting at like even him being kind of flirtatious, but I don't see any chemistry between them. I was actually laughing because I was thinking, are we like on the same page? Are we reading the same book? Because everyone else, including me, can see that you have feelings for Shep, and I understand that Ethan's the baby's dad, but why are you confused? So finally Eve realizes that she's in love with Shep, and honestly, the way she comes to that realization wasn't my favorite part of the story at all. So she has this conversation with Ethan after him and Eleni break up, where he points out that she seemed different the night they met, and that sends her into this flashback where she remembers that Shep had just gotten out of his relationship with Heather, and he's finally single. He's moving in with Willa, and they're going to be spending all this time together. And suddenly it clicks for her. The reason she was so happy that night was the reason she felt so free was because Shep was finally back in her life and he was going to be seeing her more. Now, I understand what the author was trying to do, but I don't know if the execution completely worked for me. I mean, realizing you're in love with somebody after sleeping with someone else, or realizing that you're in love with somebody and then like sleep, like the reason that you slept with someone is because you have such strong feelings for someone else. It's a little bit messy. I don't know. Like it if someone told me that they were so excited to see me that they had sex with somebody else, I I mean, I don't have that scenario because I'm married, but still, let me know what you guys think about that. And after that, like everything started to fall into place. Eve decides she's ready to tell Shep how she feels, and this man continues to prove that he deserves every bit of love he gets. One of my favorite moments in the entire book is when Shep buys a new bike. And at first I thought, okay, cool. He bought a bike. Like, great. And then you find out it has a baby seat on the back of the bike. He bought a bike because he wanted to take Eve's baby on bike rides and help her out and be there for the baby. Not because anyone asked him to, not because they were dating, but because he had wanted to be around that baby. He wants to be in that baby's life. He did it because that's where his heart is. And if that doesn't scream golden retriever energy, I don't know what does. So then we get into the really lengthy part of the book, and it's like the labor. So the labor happens after they confess their love for each other, blah 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 blah, and they have like one spicy scene. And I'm pretty sure it's just the one spicy scene in the entire book, which is also weird for me. But he ends up telling her after the fact that he's been in love with her for 25 years. 25 years. He explains that when he started dating Heather, he had genuinely thought he moved on, but he realized in his heart he hadn't, that he'd always loved Eve, even when they were kids. And Heather knew, and that's why she treated Eve a little bit poorly. And he just never had the courage to tell Eve. And his mom's dying wish for him was that he was going to be more brave. So he tried to make the confession with Eve, and it just didn't happen. So Heather let him stay and live with her even though he broke up with her for about a year. And that's why he was always there and he always remembered everything she said and he kept showing up without being asked. And why every decision he made somehow centered around her happiness. Those little moments I've been loving throughout the book suddenly had more meaning. And again, if we could get into this man's head, like I just wanted to know. I wanted to hear it from him. I wanted to hear it from his viewpoint. I wish we got more. This conversation comes pretty late in the story, and I would have loved for a few extra chapters of them actually being together and having a relationship. Let us enjoy the payoff of waiting for so long for them to be together. Give us more than a few chapters before it's over, because after that, we dive into the birth of the baby. And I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about it because honestly, I felt like the book already spent enough time there. The labor scene is incredibly detailed, everything that's going on, who's there for her. Some readers are probably going to love it because of the extensive detail. People like to read details. I'm not a detail person. It was just, if it doesn't develop the story for me, I don't need it. So it wasn't part that I was most invested in. I was most invested in Eve and Shep building their future together. And then the book ends with Eve moving into the apartment that Shep was getting because Shep was ready to move out of Willa's house. And he picked this apartment because Eve loved the apartment and everything had been decorated to Eve's liking. Her brothers came from wherever they're from. I forget, it's somewhere in the Midwest to help. Everyone is finally feeling like one big family, and it's a sweet ending. I just wish we'd gotten something more, an epilogue. Give me a wedding, give me a year later, give me a toddler. Yeah, she names the baby Miriam, by the way, which, okay, queen, if that's what you'd like. I just needed more. After spending the entire book waiting for these two to get together, I wasn't ready for it to end, and it really does end. Day after hospital, day after Miriam's born, they're home, and that's it. So, final thoughts. I gave Ready or Not 3 out of 5 stars. Did I enjoy it? Absolutely. It was a fun time. It was an okay time. I wish it didn't drag as long. Would I recommend it? Yeah, I'd recommend it. But with a few caveats, if you love a slow burn romance, golden retriever book boyfriends, brother's best friend, best friend's brother, and character driven stories, I think you'll have a really good time with this book. If you're not a fan of a surprise pregnancy trope or you're looking for a fast-paced romance, this one may not work as well for you. I'm more of a fast-paced person, or at least if I'm getting details, it needs to paint me a picture of the situation, move the story forward. Personally, I would have loved less focus on the pregnancy and more on the relationships being built. Like, yes, that she is pregnant, but that's not all she is. And even with that criticism, I still found myself loving this book. Eve is great. Eve is so relatable. Eve is made me feel, I saw myself so much in Eve. And Shep is everything I would want for a romance man. And their chemistry is what kept me going. So while it's not my new favorite, I'm glad I read it. If you've already read Ready or Not, let me know what you thought about it in the comments. Did you love it? Did you have the same issues I did? Or am I just on my own here? I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you have any romance recommendations you think I need next, leave those down below too, because my TBR is already completely out of control. But let's be honest, what's one more book, right? So thank you guys so much for watching my first video. If you enjoyed hanging out with me today, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss future uploads. I'll see you on Wednesday for our first movie and TV review. We will be talking about the show on Prime, Elle, based on Legally Blonde. And I'll see you guys on Wednesday. Bye!